Hi, everybody. And I just realized I think I've been on for a little while not saying anything. I have just been trying to get this started. I tried to do an event last week to kind of get this started, and I think it started already a couple minutes ago. So my apologies if you've been sitting here and just looking at me trying to figure things out. Okay, so so excited to be doing another live, and as you probably may know, and why you're here is today I want to talk to you about your child's or just basically eye skills and how they can relate to your children's reading and writing skills. So during this live, if you want to say hi or if you have any comments or questions, please make sure you write it in. And yeah, so let's get started. So our visual system is basically taking in all the information from our environment and just processing that information. But the visual information is not only about how well you are seeing things, it's also about how your brain processes that visual information and also about binocularity. So, binocularity is about how you use your two eyes together and how kind of those eyes work together. And all of these skills can be affecting your child's reading and writing skills. Now, a little statistic is that but current research basically indicates that 25% of children between the age of 5 to 17 have some kind of visual problems. And that's kind of one out of four kids. So that's a big number, I feel. And if you are worried about your child's kind of visual skills, it's an important thing to go and take them to an optometrist. Now, and when you go to see an optometrist, it's important to kind of get a comprehensive visual assessment. So the usual thing is, having a look at how well, you're seeing, and also looking at overall health the eye's health. And then you can look at, the visual processing component, which is really kind of the visual perception part of it. And that can be usually done by an occupational therapist. And then, which is very important thing, and which is a lot of times skipped or not done by an optometrist unless you request it, is kind of the visual efficiency, which is really talking about the binocular vision, which is again how the two eyes are working together, how kind of the and looking at all the eye movements. Um, Now, today we will not be looking kind of at the eye health or how well you're seeing this. This is not my area of expertise. Visual perception is, but we're going to keep that for another live. But I do want to mention today and talk about those specific eye skills that have to do with reading and writing. Okay, so let's get started and let's think about what skills your child needs to be able to read their work and and do the writing. So the first skill that your eyes need to be doing is being able to fixate. Fixate basically means being able to look something for that you're wanting to focus on. Usually anything above 2 seconds is considered normal. Then a lot of times when you're talking about reading, you might be hearing people talking about tracking. Tracking is when you follow a moving object. That actually does not influence your reading, because when you are reading, you are not following letters or words across the page. What you need is actually saccades. Saccades are the ones that do short, fast movements. So when you're doing reading, let's say, you really are focusing on those, on kind of on that movement. Um, then there is the near vision work. So a very important skill for being able to do near vision stuff is convergence. Convergence is being able to focus your two eyes when they are together. Um, Now, when the convergence doesn't work very well, then you will have basically you can see double. You may have words kind of jumping and floating around the page, which, as you may think, reading and writing makes is going to be very challenging if your words are kind of moving all about. So again, the three kind of main skills that you need for reading and writing, and that's eye skills, is the fixation, so being able to focus your eyes on something, then saccades, so the kind of the fast, short movements across the page, and then the near vision systems, and one of those is obviously the convergence that I mentioned. So, how do you recognize if your child might kind of have some of those visual challenges? And basically, it's there are certain behaviors that might give you clues that might prompt you to maybe go see an optometrist. So, some of those behaviors might be squinting when they're doing near vision work. It's kind of the squinting they might be doing. They might be rubbing their eyes, and they might seem much more irritated. They might be doing different types of head tilts, kind of sideways. And basically, what's happening is the brain is pretty, the brains are pretty good. So, what they're trying to do is when they spot a visual challenge, what they do is then when they do spot that visual challenge, what they try to do is, oh, I see Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. Good that you're here. So yeah, so when they do see, challenges, the brain tries to compensate. So, kind of looking and using the peripheral vision might be something, or kind of might be, they might be covering one of their eyes because they seeing double because the convergence is not working really well. Um, Another kind of behavior you might notice is complaints. They might complain of headaches when they are doing near vision work. There might be excessive blinking, and obviously, they might be seeing double, or words floating and being blurry. And sometimes you might go see an optometrist, and optometrist might say that your child is, seeing well up close and far, but they're still seeing blurry. The words are still jumping around, and that is because of the kind of the binocularity. That's why it's so important to stress to your optometrist to check that. And kind of another thing is when your child has vision problems and they are starting to learn how to read and they're having problems, they may not know that words jumping around is unusual, right? I mean, how do you know that, seeing double or, words moving around is unusual if that's the way you've always been seeing? So you need to kind of be a little bit of detective and see if any of those other any of those other behaviors are present as well. Now, some of the academic challenges that you might be noticing is your kiddo is having those reading problems. So those eye skills are not working really well, and they may be skipping lines. They may be reading some of the words backwards, which is really clues for those eye motor muscles not working well, right? Then you might also notice poor handwriting skills. There might be letter reversals. And also, a quick note with letter reversals, it is typical for kids to reverse letters up to the second grade. So that's also very, very important to note, because reversals until second grade are typical, but afterwards it gives you another clue about something might be going on here. Floating letters or poorly spaced letters, that also gives you some clues. Kids might have difficulty copying information from the board, and basically looking up and then looking down and then looking up, looking down, they might be losing the information, and avoidance of the near vision tasks. And I think another thing that I want to mention is there has been a child with near vision problems can sometimes be seen as possible child with ADHD. What do I mean by that? What do I mean is when you have near vision problems and you're trying to do your work in front of you, try to do the reading or kind of the writing, and your eyes are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you're really struggling, what you do is you avoid, right? You look around the room, you start fidgeting and moving and not attending to what's happening. So sometimes that could be mistaken then like, oh my gosh, my child has attention issues, whereas in fact, they just can't focus on new work because it's just too hard. So I think that's an important thing. If you are thinking that your child might have attentional challenges and you're questioning whether it's ADHD, to kind of get a full picture and get you kind of your whole puzzle piece kind of fitted in, I would recommend having your eyes checked by an optometrist as well. There are a lot of cases where kind of once they started working on vision and improving those visual skills, the attention difficulties disappeared. Now, there's also, a question might come up. Well, is it dyslexia, not being able to, having a hard time to read? And yes, when your child struggles with reading, it could be signs of dyslexia, but it could also be signs of the visual problems. So how do you kind of differentiate? So with visual problems, as I was kind of mentioning, it's all about kind of doing the letter reversals, skipping lines, or reading kind of backwards, right? But dyslexia is more kind of problems with the it's more of a phonetical problem. So having difficulties encoding and decoding the sounds to letters or letters to sounds. That's kind of dyslexia. And dyslexia is not a visual problem. So again, something to think about. And I find it always so interesting that like visual problems can be presented as so many other things such as ADHD or dyslexia. So it's kind of great. I feel like it's quite important to make sure you always have your kids' visual skills known. So I mean, I guess so. What can you do? And the recommendations are that at the age of 3, you have your child's eyes tested to see how that's working, and then from 6 to 18, have their eyes tested annually. Now, an important thing is when you do go check your kids' eyes, make sure you do talk to your optometrist if they can do a comprehensive eye exam. So including all those binocular skills. They will cover much bigger range as well, but obviously I'm not covering them all here today, but there is a huge amount of skills that we would want them to be looking at. Now, and what can you do, if your child, may not have visual challenges, but you still want to kind of encourage that healthy eye development, right? What you want to be doing is, actually, before I go there, I do want to kind of mention that there is a link between vision and the vestibular sense. So if you have not listened to my previous vestibular sense live, the vestibular sense really helps you with kind of the balance, the equilibrium, and kind of keeps you up against gravity. And that vestibular sense is actually a sense that is activated anytime your head changes position. And the vision and the vestibular sense have a relationship through the vestibular ocular reflex, which basically helps to maintain your stable vision, because otherwise your eyes would be actually moving. It helps with the development of the binocular vision, as well as it strengthens kind of the peripheral vision as well. So when you are doing activities that focus on that healthy eye development, it would greatly benefit if you include some kind of a balance or kind of vestibular activity. So, doing things on a trampoline or, on a balance board or even standing on cushions and doing like an activity is good because it gives you, kind of the unsteady things. It's like a balance board. Um, and then doing things on a swing. So the kind of activities that you could be doing is Zoom ball, for example, right? As you kind of, as you guys are kind of spreading those strings and that ball goes back and forth, the eyes really need to, excuse me, they really need to kind of work, right? Any types of bubbles games, and I think I mentioned bubbles in so many different lives because they are pretty awesome. Um, then balloon volleyball, any other kind of balloon games, having a balloon suspended and hitting it. Also, ball games are excellent. The throwing, catching, kicking, um, and beanbag toss is great. And beanbag toss is, you can do it on the swing. You can, get some boxes and you can knock them over when you're on a swing or when you're on a trampoline or when you are standing on that kind of unsteady cushion as well. Um, what else? You can, oh yes, there are things like, I mean, whistles are also very great for kind of the oral motor things, but there are things that you can do that help with eye skills as well. I have this really cool, it's an air whistle, I guess, because it doesn't make sound. But what happens is these balls, when you blow in it, they go up. So as they are going up, your eyes really need to focus them, and it's very neat work. So, so this was just kind of an example. And again, it won't be very irritating to you because it's silent, but it's really great, and my kids really love playing with them. And you can find these or similar ones on Amazon. Some have just like a little whistle thing with just a one ball. So those are just as great. You can do things like and this is kind of the cooking skewer, which is super long and sharp on one end. So I wouldn't use that, but you can pick up little sticks, very thin sticks from like coffee shops, and you can get some Cheerios, right? And you kind of stick it in your mouth and then put it on, right? And then here you go. That's another thing. If you don't have Cheerios or sticks available, you can get straws or, and then get like if you have those pipe cleaners, cut them into small pieces and make a little circle, and you can do the same thing. It's really strengthening that near vision because coming from far to close, and strengthening that kind of convergence, which is important. Um, Also, drinking from crazy straw, sorry, the kids would really love kind of like looking at it as the liquid kind of goes, which is again kind of that near work vision. Another thing that I want to say is um, spending time outside. I would say it's very important. We have, especially if your kiddo is doing distance or, learning where they spend a lot of time on the computer or, kids are kind of more, spend more time on the screens. You want to give them a really good amount outside where their eyes really look at getting strengthened because they have the opportunities to look far, to look close, to look on the side, and the eye muscles are really strengthening all those different all those skills, which is very important. Um, while simultaneously as you're playing outside, you are strengthening that vestibular system as well, and kind of something that we usually say as OTs here, what we have noticed that kids who do have kind of weaker bodies that do tend to have weaker eye skills. So you want to try to give your children the opportunity to really strengthen those bodies and strengthening those neck muscles, right, and strengthening as you're moving that vestibular sense, which gives all those kind of important foundations to get those eye muscles stronger So they are able to do all the movements that they are supposed to. Um, and otherwise, if you do notice any of the, if you kind of questioning your child's eye skills, and if you thought, oh, well, I have noticed some of the, kind of the behaviors that I've mentioned, please go and check your kid's eyes. I would highly recommend that. And when you do that, again, request that binocular vision. So they do look at the fixation. They do look at the kind of the convergence. They do look at like saccades. It's very important to kind of mention to the optometrist that this is what you're wanting to check. So, I mean, otherwise, if you have no concerns about your child's eye skills, I would still highly recommend kind of doing all, the different activities that I mentioned to help developing all those, eye skills, so there will be no issues, in the future. So that's it, I guess, for me that I wanted to say. I don't see any questions. If you do come up with questions later on, and if you start watching your child and you're like, oh, I'm seeing this, feel free to message me. I'll be happy to kind of talk you through it and kind of direct you. I also want to mention that I will be having a course, I think at the end of March, that will be focusing on a lot of kind of school skills, and how you can help your child to really support those foundational skills really needed for those reading, writing, kind of sitting up and kind of paying attention. So please make sure you keep an eye on it. If you do want information now, you can ping me. Otherwise, kind of keep an eye on it. And next week I will be back, and I will be starting to, I think, spend a few weeks talking about writing, like the handwriting grasp, as well as formation of letters and how to do that. It's something that I have, some of the parents have been talking to me about it, so I want to make sure I address those needs to you guys as well. And thank you, Tanya. I'm glad you could join us. So hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, feel free to even message me afterwards and I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you for joining. Have a good one. Bye.